I've started the stream.
Okay. Susan, you look like you've taken your
up.
computer up a little higher.
I did.
Yeah, nice.
Danny
I
worked.
like it.
Danny worked very hard for a long time to get this to where he thought I would be like presentable.
Yeah. Nice.
And now, yeah, we just need to see how long your battery will last.
It's all charged up, so get prepared. Hi, Monica.
Oh, Monica, can you hear us?
I have a visitor.
Who is the dog your visitor?
Yes.
All right, 2 minutes. I think I'm gonna take the 2 minutes.
Dan's going to the door to pick up the takeout. It's coming in. Great.
Got some lo mein.
Someday he just might go to the door and just keep running, you know.
Sasha wants to say a few words.
Oh, good.
And you want to talk to them, Sasha?
Does she talk? Can you make her talk, Susan, by making noises or something?
I don't know exactly when she decides to talk, but she talks a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's a very vocal dog. Yes. Yeah.
Hey,
Where's
Monica.
Is Monica there?
She's here, but
I can't hear her.
can't hear her. She doesn't have her video on. So I think she's pretty skilled with this stuff. But oh man.
So where's Hannah and Kara?
Oh, Monica said hi.
Hi, Monica.
They're here. Hannah's on the other couch. Kara's in the other room.
Did you make your steak with the
Yes.
Yes.
And it turned out.
What?
So.
It turned out what?
So Monica's got some problems here.
Yeah, I'm here, but everyone is showing like they aren't on. I can see you on Twitch though. Yeah, we can see you, Monica, but we can't see your video.
Just our avatar.
Yeah, just your avatar. Did anybody else try to get in? TJ, can you see? You should be able to let people in. I don't know. We're missing Loco and we're missing
Monica's gonna go out.
Monica's trying to get out and back in.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, here.
Oh, here she is.
Hey, Kay.
Here's Kay.
And Monica's back.
Hey.
Now she's muted. Hey, Zero. Hey, do you need to see? Do you want to come here? All right, just 1 second.
Oh, Loco's coming in. That's great.
Okay, let's go check it out.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Loco.
Hi, Loco.
How is it going tonight?
So
Good.
I can only see avatars for Kay, Monica, and Loco.
Yeah.
Is that?
That's your internet. That's your internet.
That's my internet.
I need to.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I can't.
No, I have my camera off for the night. My camera's been acting up, and so is my internet. So to make it easier on my connection, I'm turning the camera off.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
Kay,
So
can you hear us? And is everything okay on your end? We've had some trouble with audio.
I can hear you. I can hear you guys.
Yeah, I just about Kay.
Oh, sorry.
The microphone's off. Yeah, that's all right.
I can hear you.
Oh, great, Kay. Can hear you too. Super.
Now, can you guys see Kay?
Just the Atavar.
I
Atavar.
see your
What do you call it? An
Avatar.
icon. Avatar. Yep.
We did it.
Oh, Monica.
Third time's the
Hey.
charm.
I switched to my iPad, so it worked.
There you go. Super.
All right. So everyone is here and we can start the show. Thank you guys, everybody, for showing up. Mac, are you doing opening intro?
Are we live?
Yep.
All right. Welcome to the Workshop Show. The guy with the earphones and real mic is my co-host and producer of the show, Daniel Andrew Boyd. Dan spent the last week pulling from his extensive experience with the craft of storytelling. He's come up with a dynamite lesson plan for today's workshop.
And this is my co-host, and he's a real lover of stories and storytelling. His name is Mac McDavid.
So we're the Workshop Show. We believe that the stories you tell will continue to evolve as you improve your craft and grow in personal insight. This is how our show is going to go today. Dan starts by pulling us together for a 15 or 20-minute lesson here at the top of the show. Then we're going to spend the next hour and a half diving deeply into two stories that you'll hear tonight. We will offer and receive feedback from each of the tellers. This kind of close reading allows us to act like a director. After that feedback, we'll ask each teller to immediately tell their story again, trying out a new version. I think this is something new to these kinds of workshops. This way we can see in real time how our feedback works. Did the changes make the story better? Worse? Did we help the teller get closer to the heart of the story? Wait a minute. There is something I always forget at this point.
But I've got you covered on that part, Mac. So welcome everybody to Workshop. Please don't freak. We're here to critique. It's not directed at the person, it's directed at the piece. So for you in the audience, you can chime in too, and we hope you bring your comments and some love into the room.
Great, thanks, Kay. So here's the way it's going to go. Each of the two tellers will get to tell their story 2 or even sometimes 3 times. At the end of the show, one of the people who didn't tell a story retells one of the stories they heard tonight from their own perspective, first-person perspective, as though they had lived through the original storyteller's experience. That'll happen just before the show ends. And now that you've got the rundown, I'll kick it over to Dan, who used to play soccer, so he knows what I'm talking about.
Awesome. What can I say about storytelling today? What are we working on? So one of the things that we talked about in the last show was hey to the people in chat. So we're doing a lesson on storytelling, and what we talked about last week was this idea of narrator versus character and how they can have a dynamic where the character can be you and the narrator can be you, and if they have sort of different perspectives on what's going on, then you can create drama through that little dynamic. Today, I am going to talk about stuff that I do that's personal for my storytelling that goes a little deeper into those dynamics. And it's going to be about how, when you have multiple characters in a scene, do you get through the problem of that being confusing in a story? And different people do that different ways. And on the top level, one of the things that I think about as a storyteller that I'm interested in terms of voice, and this isn't good or bad, this is just a voice thing, particular to me, is that I'm very interested in stories where they're super colloquial. I like to get on stage and have this presence that people don't even know when the story started, because it's so familiar. It's so much like somebody talking to you in line for a movie, or talking to you best friend sitting next to you in a car or something like that. That style of storytelling interests me. The other kind is a little more theatric and stage ready, and it's called embodied storytelling, where you try to go really deep into the idea of envisioning what's happening around you. And when you are being a little kid, if you're telling a story as a little kid, you're really having a detailed, lucid vision of the scene around you. And then you can use that idea of narrator versus character and play off them, and you can jump in and out of that. And it helps you delineate for the audience who you are as a character. And what I'm going to do right now is give a snippet of a story that I've been working on, and let the crew here sort of give some ideas of what they think is happening, choices that I'm making to help people understand that different people exist in this world that I'm creating for people. So, bum, 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 bum. I am late for class. It's fucking 8th grade. It's the first day of this math class, and I get there and I'm late, which causes me all sorts of problems. One of which is that there is a supervillain for a math teacher, and she's over there. And then the other one is there's these 32 kids, and they're all in their seats, and it's 2 by 2, and who am I going to sit with? And the choices are so terrible, and I lock eyes with this one dude. And there's that doo-doo-doo little noise of a Western in the background of my mind, but we're locked, and so I choose the nuclear option, and I'm just like, all right, I'm sitting with the psychopath. And I go and I sit down next to him. And Willoughby, first of all, he's a psychopath, but he's been held back 3 times, twice in 8th grade. The second time, not because he failed, but because he brought a machete to school to kill someone. And they thought the proper thing to do was to make him do 8th grade again. So he is like 18. I am 14, and like he is a man to my baby. 14 to 18 is a big gap when it's 14 to 18. And I'm sitting next to him, and I'm immediately regretting the decision to sit next to him when he taps on the desk like he's knocking to get in. And he looks at me and he says, "Boyd, do you know why I like you? I can taste the salty fear coming from the sweat off of me. So I know he can fucking smell the fear. And so there's no reason to lie to him. So I'm just like, a little bit I'm scared of you." "No. Boyd, I pegged you right. You're not scared of me. You're nervous. And you should be nervous because I crack skulls, but you're not scared of me. None of these other kids would sit next to me, but you did. If I told one of these other kids that I liked them because they weren't scared of me, a little drool down their mouth, they just nod their heads. No, I pegged you right. So that's a little snippet of a story that I'm working on. And I'm just going to open it up to people. You got to unmute yourself. But like, what are things that you noticed that differentiate the two characters?
Your tone of voice changed. When you said you're 14, your voice went up higher versus Willoughby at 18. And with a name like Willoughby, I think that's what happened with the machete. He had to slash back at the world after that one. Be careful, parents, what you name your kids.
And you would turn too. So you would turn different ways depending on which character you were.
The tempo is also definitely different. Willoughby is not nervous. He's almost happy for, it seems like, his character, who probably isn't always a very happy person, which is also, you pick up very quickly with just the way he talks. And then, of course, the 14-year-old is nervous and therefore speaking faster and, you know, higher pitch than he probably has anyway.
Yeah, and with that dialogue, you've really created those two characters. They really came alive for me. And I got this like, what's going to happen next here? What's the next thing that's going to be said? Or that was really good that way.
Oh, thank you. All right. So
I like, sorry.
Yeah, go right ahead.
I also like that you kept the tone with telling the story. That we know what character is telling the story, and we know what perspective we're seeing it from, because it's almost like that version of you is kind of pleading, like, that's why I didn't want to fight him and I didn't want to do this. You can understand, you know what I mean? And it gives the emotion that you would like to convey, or that you'd like for the audience to feel with you, and that kind of pulls it along. So I like that too. But that's what I got.
Awesome. Okay, I see you raising your hand, but I have minutes left before we move on. So I'm going to pin myself real quick. So some things that I want to point out that other people didn't, and I appreciate the stuff that they saw, but some of the things that you can think about in these situations. Susan talked about turning. I want to say the eye level of the person you're talking to changes dramatically the dynamic. Even if you are in that narrator position and you're thinking of characters, if you place them above yourself, there's a dramatic change in what you are thinking. If you're telling a story about little you and you place little you up here, when I was a little kid, some of the things that I got into changes dramatically than when I was a little kid. Some of the little things that I get into, I said it pretty close to the same, and my eye level changing changes the dynamic of how the audience is going to take it. So when placing characters in a scene like that, that's something that I'm keeping in mind. I was lower for him. Another thing to keep in mind is, in terms of space, 14-year-old me, I tried to clench up for you and show that. I was very closed in. And Willoughby is more at home in his own skin so that he widens out. And these little things allow you to cut away from he said, she said, said, she said. There are other ways to avoid that problem, but the he said, she said sort of tags that go at the end of sentences to show you who's talking. If you're not going to name the people every time, it gets very confusing. It gets very confusing if you add more characters. You've almost always got 3: narrator, you, and then someone else. And so if you need a 4th in there, it becomes difficult. Who's the he? And the way that I personally try to mitigate that is this idea of embodying these characters and going into them. And you do that with different physicalities. Another thing that I'm going to say is I am not a voice actor. And so what I have done for myself is I've put some time into certain voices that are for other characters in stories. That way I have a handful that I can choose from, and I can place them into these different stories. You can get into trouble with that where you're sort of doing a stereotype. And so I'll try to make subtle tweaks so that they're each their own. But basically, I have me, I have a bro, I have a girl, and I have like a crazy person. And those are the ones that I practice and work on and just do little tweaks to make them the people in the character. Sort of coincide and make them a little more rounded. Sometimes you can think about, in the broad sense, what does the average male stand like if you're a male character? Do they have a wide stance? Do they have a short stance? And the last little bit, but you can also think about that in terms of sort of this scene that I was illustrating. You can think about it in terms of what's the situation that's causing this. You know, if you're doing a scene with a woman who's addressing a boardroom, do you have her be very feminine? Or does she sort of take on a little more of what you would think of as a masculine role as she's like trudging through there? You can play with that dynamic and create these well-rounded characters through this physicality. And if you keep them consistent, you don't need to do the he said, she said. And so that's something that I'm big on thinking on. And I'm doing very intentionally when I'm crafting my stories. Let me unpin myself. And we're back. Today we have a ton of good stories. I'm going to point out, we would love for everybody in chat to follow us on social media. Facebook is probably our number one home. But after the show, we're going to have a green room session that everybody can join. And we'll be doing that in Discord. And I'll be throwing up a link in a little bit to that. We have 2 storytellers for today, and I'm going to open it up to them real quick to see if somebody is hankering to go first.
Dan, we want to do introductions too.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, introductions are first. Mac, can you help with introductions?
Sure.
And then I can look up that Discord link.
So the way we're going to do introductions today is each one of the crew members here, just a couple of sentences, is going to respond to this prompt. If I could play one sport really well, so I'm just going to, what we did before, I'm just going to kind of just ask each one of you to jump in, okay? Noah, why don't you get started?
Okay. Yeah, so I've never been a sports person, so I had to think long and hard, and I'm going to go with like pool because I feel like there's a lot of opportunity to make friends and experience exciting things if you're good at pool. So that's what I went with.
Okay, great. Susan?
I'm gonna go with soccer. I always had like a lot of fun playing soccer and watching soccer and like going to the Women's World Cup. And I'm always like in my fantasies, I'm like, oh my gosh, like if I was just born later, I maybe could have made something of it.
Okay.
I would do football because I grew up watching the game with my dad and he taught me the rules until high school when I wanted to try out for the team and all teaching shut down. So if I could do any sport, I'd do that one. you're an individual, you're a teammate, it's physical and it's mental.
Okay, what position would you play?
I'd probably be the QB. I really don't want to be
I
crunched
thought
up.
so. I
Yeah.
thought so. Great, great. Hey, Loco, how about you?
You know, if I'm being completely honest, fishing, because every time I go fishing, it is such a relaxing and tranquil, thing to do. And I've always wanted to do it. First of all, I've always wanted to be on those TV shows that do it, catching like swordfish and stuff. So if I knew how to do it professionally, I think that would be really cool. I'd like to see what that would be like.
All right. Monica, how about you? Let's get you in here.
You know, I was originally going to say triathlon because that's my sport anyway, but I think I'm going to change it to shooting, because if we get to a point in life where we need to be able to, all of us kill our own food, I want to be prepared.
Oh, it's good to have you on this crew. How about you, Dan?
I was thinking I was going to go with soccer, but you said I'm already good at that. So I'm going to say super-powered, rocket-propelled battle cars, acrobatic style. There's a video game where you play soccer as a car, and it's called Rocket League, and I have put so many hours in it. It's ridiculous how bad I am.
I can't tell you how many letters I've written the Olympics to try just this very method. I haven't gotten a response yet, but I think if I get someone backing me, Dan, we could do this.
Right.
So Special Olympics has now put in virtual sports as in part of their Special Olympics.
That's great.
That's
great. TJ Olatunji, what about you?
Mine would actually be the visual. So like video games. I love them, but I suck ass so bad. It is like 3 kills and terrible. So yeah, video games.
Any game in particular?
Call of Duty, and GTA, especially Grand Theft Auto. They are monsters. On there. So if I could be better at that. Yeah.
All right. So I got one. So I've been thinking long and hard about this, of course. And I think what I would really like is what do you call that thing? Is it a steeplechase or something where people get on these giant horses and they go for it and they go over fences and into like there's water on the other side. And I think that it would be so unbelievable to like control a huge animal like that. And it also would mean that I could like take off across the countryside, like jumping over fences and et cetera. But I just think it would be such a visceral thrill. So if I was going to be really good at something, I mean, I would like go for it that way. One problem though, I wouldn't want to get hurt because I don't know if I could ever like heal again. But so I don't know how that would work out. Okay, Dan, back to you.
Awesome. Now that we've had time to think about it, Loco, are you up for going first?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
So for my story, I thought since it is my birthday today, I would tell you a birthday story. One of the coolest birthdays that I ever had was not too long ago. I think it was about 3 years back. I was already living in Rockford. I was comfortable, but I was homesick. And my birthday was the perfect opportunity for me to see my family. What my family didn't know was that was the perfect opportunity to surprise me, bum rush me into a gathering that they were having, hijack me to go on said outing, and Everybody that had birthdays in my family in January, they planned an outing to medieval times.
Wow.
And didn't tell me. So everyone was just like, get in the car, Mike, it'll be fine. Go along with it, Mike, it's gonna be okay. And then finally halfway there on the road, it's revealed that we're going to medieval times. So I love medieval times. I'm absolutely a fantasy nut. I play D&D. I'm a huge video gamer as well. So medieval times is like, that's like Kittyland for me. That's like the coup de grace of nerddom, if you will. But being able to go not just to a place that I love, but with family that I hadn't seen in a while. In particular, my two brothers, who are just as nerdy as I am. And the thing you need to understand about my brothers and I is that when we get together, it doesn't matter whether we are in public. It doesn't matter if it's just the family around. When we get into our stride, everyone knows it. So to give you an idea about it, when we got there, I'm not gonna really tell this in order. That's absurd. I'm gonna tell you in level of epicness. That's how we're gonna do this. So my brothers and I, when we are already seated in our benches and we have our food ordered, we get teams. So you are given a knight, a color to root for, while the performers, who are knights, battle one another. It's so brilliant. I really wish they did this in more than just medieval time setting, but that's beside the point. Anyway, I love the whole aspect of it, because when my brothers and I get together and you give us something like this, that alone feels like a sport that I could never get into. I could never get into football. My brothers never got into basketball. I never got into baseball. We never got into soccer. But when it came to wielding deadly weapons at each other, we were top notch. So we got the Blue Knight. And to commemorate our knight and, give him courage to fight on, we started chanting Azul, 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 Azul. And for you non-bilinguals out there, Azul is Spanish for blue. Nobody knows that but us. Nobody gets it but us. But everybody on our side is chanting it, and we are leading the charge. It is amazing. So another thing that I like about the aspect of being around my family for my birthday is the fact that I can be myself. Living in Rockford, I wasn't really able to let that out as easily as I could. Please ignore the siren. It kind of, brings home the point that I couldn't be myself. But I didn't feel like I could be me in a place that I was still getting used to. So being able to be around my family in a setting that they knew was comfortable for me felt really cool. Like, we were standing waiting for everybody to, go in, and I had a talk with my mother, and I was so giddy I couldn't stop smiling. I was damn near blushing. And my mom just smiled back and said, "You're enjoying yourself, aren't you?" I said, "You have no idea. This is so cool." And she said, "Yeah, we kind of thought that you would. That's why we did this, because everybody liked it and we knew you especially, and we haven't seen you." So that really drove it home, because I didn't know if anybody was really missing me as much as I was missing them. And to be honest, I didn't know how much I missed them until we were face to face, and I could hug, and I could kiss, and I could joke, and I could laugh, and I could, catch up with the people that I'm so used to growing up with. And now I'm here in a new place that I'm still getting used to. And they're pretty far from me. So that was really nice. And to bring it on home, really, like I said, there's no sense in putting it in order. It's in form of epicness. And the reason why this is the last thing is because it really set the tone for not just me getting older, but me coming to grasp with the fact that I'm doing this on my own. And I hadn't really thought about that until that moment, that I'm on my own, living on my own, and I don't really need my family, but it's good to have them there. We were all sitting together and we were all getting ready to order our food. The arena is still setting up. They hadn't made any announcements yet. People are still being seated. And I turned to my brothers and I go, I think a shanty is in order here. And they nod and they go, absolutely, brother. What did you have in mind? Well, a long time ago, if you'll recall, there was the Snickers commercial where like different people from different time periods would just show up and get together and they went on a road trip for whatever reason. It was the weirdest Snickers commercial, and it was the funniest at the same time. And they sang Green Sleeves, of all things, in one of their commercials, and we thought it was hilarious. So I start the ballad, and we wait a little bit, and I just, if we look around and we go, is this the right moment? And I said, absolutely. So I just sit there and I look at my mom and I see everybody having a good time and getting seated and kind of, just relaxing a bit. And so I start the ballad and I go, alas, my love, you do me wrong to cast me off discourteously. Short pause. My brothers and I look at each other and 1, 2, 3. Green sleeves, one of my joy. Everyone around us begins to erupt into laughter all around the arena. And everyone is just, and some of our family is joining in. Others are wiping away tears of laughter who can't. And it was the best experience of my life. So since it is my birthday and sitting here and thinking back, and now that I am 30, which really kind of puts things into perspective, I like looking back on different points in my life that really turned things around, and that birthday in particular really did a number for me. So I thought I would share that with you. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That was around 9 minutes. What? I'm just gonna start off asking you, how did you feel about that telling, Loco?
I felt I was trying something new, and the more I did it, the more comfortable I felt with it. So I think it went well, me personally, but yeah.
Yeah, it was fun to listen to. One of the things that I thought was really good about it is that it's clearly a draft, but a lot of times in drafts, you're not sure what the theme is. But this had repeating motifs of themes that you're interested in talking about. This idea of missing family and family being there for you, and this idea of being a crowd and getting the crowd together with you and creating like a moment in a stadium, is a really great scene. But I think that there is also stuff to mine there about togetherness in general. And you've got those themes very set up already that you can pinpoint and talk about and like hone down now.
Yeah, I think the other thing.
Before we continue, Loco, individuals in the chat on Twitch said happy birthday. So, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So Loco, I think that about the theme, I think that's really clear. And the counterpoint to the theme is not feeling like you could be yourself where you're living, being on your own for maybe the first time, I don't know, but an important time. So those two themes kind of play back and forth as you're doing this. And I think you do that really well.
So, Logo, I like the story a lot, and I appreciated that you said I'm not doing this in order. So that got me like in the right frame of thinking of medieval times and like where you were in medieval times at the time you were speaking. I think you did a really good job of making that place happen, even though you switched up where the place was in chronological order. And I also like that you said you're doing it in epic order, but you didn't say which one was the most epic, so that you left that up to me to decide, finding out that they miss you was the most epic, or I could decide that, getting the crowd to say Azul was the most epic, because you didn't tell me, so I got to choose. And I like that a lot. I really liked your story a lot. And happy birthday, and thank you for telling it.
Something I would say is I really like specifically the Azul and the green sleeves, and how like you and your brothers get together and you clearly have control of the room. And I think Max said specifically that in comparison to just feeling like you don't have that when you're on your own, and possibly maybe in a different iteration of the story, being able to explore that juxtaposition of, on my own, I don't have these people who will sing green sleeves with me or say Azul until the entire crowd is chanting it with us. So I kind of like those things and how they could play off each other, if that makes sense. Also, happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday. One thing I liked I don't know if it was on purpose, but at the beginning of the story, when it kind of seemed like you were getting shanghaied to go on this trip, I was full of trepidation. I didn't know if it was going to be a good story or a bad story. So I liked the way that played out. And I like that moment in the story where you sort of like went into detail about what it's like to be, with your family and what that meant to you. I can laugh, I can hug, I can kiss, I can joke. Like that moment seemed very powerful to me. And yeah, I think playing with that theme of, what it means to leave home and then sort of go back to it. Maybe something I think would help with that is, to sort of go into how you're feeling before your birthday, right? Because I don't know, for me, birthdays are sort of bittersweet, right? You're getting a little older, you're moving on in your life, but sort of, your network comes together around you and makes you feel special. So, yeah, that's all. That's all I had.
So one thing, Loco, I just want to share with you is it's the kind of story I wanted to know more. First of all, I might have missed it, but I didn't know how old you were, what birthday it was. And the second thing, I want to know more about your brothers. Just a few details, physical details or just attitudinal details. And you powered through the story with your enthusiasm, which is just great. But there was these things that I just wanted to know more. I wanted to be able to be there with you in a way of really seeing your brothers, seeing the important people in some kind of way.
Thank you guys for all the birthday wishes and the critiques. It helps a lot. And I really am happy that I could, share that with you guys, and that, I get the critiques that I get, because it does help to structure. Because even doing this, I'm now like applying what I learned here in my stories. So it's really cool to see, like it reflect on, how you do stuff. So sorry, I'm learning again.
No, that's good. what do you think? I feel like we could get this. You know, it's a 10-minute story now. I feel like we could tighten it up to be a 6. Is that how do you feel about it in terms of that loco? Like, are you thinking about where you would at all? Like, I think that this, like, as it becomes more shaped, would be a great story to tell somewhere live, like at a show. Is this a story that you would want to do that?
If it were tightened a little more, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd definitely love to. I would have to figure out how to dwindle it down. Because I was thinking, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, Chad actually had a good suggestion. And this comes from, I don't know, NLSC6. It is a part towards the end where you actually start to explain when you said realizing how much your family missed you at the very end, that they felt like you had a little too much over clarification. And that's something where I agree you can cut down on.
Okay. So maybe just have it in one part of the story and not reiterate it. Or if I have to, just like a passing kind of remark on it.
Yeah, I think you've got so much that you can build out in these scenes, and we know all of it. And so I think probably this whole thing can play out in those scenes. One clarification, and this is a question for chat too, I suppose, and maybe an indicator of our audience that we're in Chicago and a Medieval Times exists. But does everyone here know what Medieval Times is? No, yeah, Mac did not. So that's something to think about. Is there's a lot of exposition there. Where you were like, it's a nerd's dream. It's for people who play D&D, and you had a whole list of things. You can cut that, and maybe because it's a surprise that you're getting there, go from to, you've got Noah's point. I think where he's like a little more of you in the beginning and you in your head of this loneliness. I think, what would be a scene for that? There's a question for me. And then I think more of this will formulate. But what's the scene could you put us in where you're missing your family?
At that time?
Yeah, right at the beginning, because you talked about being homesick and that sort of thing, but it was sort of talked about, what if you painted that? Like, what does it look like for you at the time? Like, you're getting this, like, right when you're getting hijacked and you're thinking to yourself about being homesick and you don't know that you're going to Medieval Times. Like, can you paint that picture for a minute or two right now?
It would be something like, sitting around the couch, finding myself in a YouTube loop with absolutely no end in sight was pretty much how I thought my birthday was going to go, which is true. And at that point, that was what it felt like, because I wasn't really doing anything. I didn't have anything planned, and getting back to Chicago, where I used to live, was tricky because I didn't have a car and I didn't have any money. But to convey that in a story like this, it's a little difficult because I don't want to go into too much detail and waste, that much time.
Yeah, but
And at
I
the
think
same
it
time,
actually condenses it. Because you're like,
really,
you're a couple minutes in that opening scene where you're describing homesickness.
yeah,
And so if you just show us just that, like, I'm scrolling through YouTube and you can like give some specifics there. I've watched this PewDiePie video for 100th time or whatever it is that is your YouTube go-to.
it
And
was Markiplier for sure.
Markiplier, yeah, right. So
Right.
I'm watching Markiplier on YouTube, and this is how lonely my birthday is gonna be.
Yeah, right. He's really consider,
Right.
hey, and it's my birthday. You give us a couple of things, and it's my birthday, and this is the way I'm going to spend my birthday. Alone like this, and then you could be in the car. The next scene you could be in the car, and then you could be at that table. I mean, your scenes are really clear and clean.
Yeah.
Uh,
So setting that stage would condense it rather than hinder it, you think?
I think so. I think in all these places, the more you show the picture, the more you create the movie in our mind, it's actually makes it faster because you can get it because we get it by seeing it. And so like get from there. I mean, I almost think you could jump from there. Like I thought it was gonna be, I'm just spitballing here, to help us like get this time down. But it's like the homesick YouTube thing, and then jump cut us. But my family pulled it out for me, and I don't even know if you need those details, and you could say something like that, like you don't need the details of how, but I am walking into the coolest place with all of them, and I didn't think I could be there, and just describe it. I am in Chicago. It is a castle in the middle of like nowhere, surrounded by a giant parking lot, and I'm walking in and there are throne rooms and knights, and I'm gonna watch a jousting tournament, and this is the and I don't even think you need to say like this is the best, but then you can go into and I'm about to have like an epic thing or something like that, and then you go into these scenes and you've got the Azul one. You've got the singing Greensleeves, and then help me out.
And then the conversation with my mom.
And then combo with your mom.
I feel like I would almost end on the conversation with the mom.
Yeah.
Because like even though it's not as exciting and loud epic, I mean that feels like that's what really hit you the hardest of, oh, dang, they do miss me. I'm kind of glad I didn't realize I needed to know that.
And you know what? That's really what it felt like, because there was cheering and there was noise, and for me it almost felt like something out of a movie. Like, how all the noise around you kind of just goes moot, and the only person that you can really hear is the person that you're talking to, because it's either so important or you're trying your best to hear, and it's just that conversation with her felt like that, and everything that she was saying really kind of brought me back, to reality, because it hit, pretty hard. So yeah,
Yeah.
it really did feel like that. So Monica, you hit it right on the head.
So I'm gonna say one thing from somebody from the chat threw out that one, we can all relate to loneliness I think we've all had a birthday where we're feeling lonely. We can all relate to like having a moment. Most of us can relate to having a moment of like feeling like family, whether it's with our family or with someone else. You have like the sense of cohesiveness, but particularly in this time, like even without saying it, it immediately ties into this thread of what's going on because so many of us are missing family and haven't seen our parents, haven't seen our brothers because of this time. So like having this moment and telling it becomes like a special thing in this time to like remember the times where we could be together. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. So this is my suggestion for your second tell. To hear it all, do paint that scene of, whether you're on a laptop or you're scrolling through your phone and you're like feeling lonely, get inside your head about birthdays and stuff like that. And I think you can do it in 2 or 3 sentences and then flip the switch and be like, and it doesn't matter how I got there, but now I'm standing in front of a castle. And then go into these scenes, show us your brothers, and do the Azure Greensleeves combo and end it at the end of that combo. And let's see how that feels.
Okay, so really paint that picture of before and start from there.
That's my thought. That's my suggestion.
Yeah. I like it. Okay. Whenever.
Yeah. And I'm gonna time you, and you can see us, right?
I can, but why would you tell me that you're gonna time me? Now I'm gonna think about you timing me, and now it's gonna mess me up. Why would you do that?
You're always timed.
Yeah,
it's my birthday, Dan. I don't want to be told. I don't want to be told that on my birthday. Well, why would you do this?
All right. As a birthday gift, I am not going to time you.
I can see the timer, Dan.
I can see the timer.
All right.
Sitting on computers with clocks. Go ahead. Good luck.
Okay. Guys and gals, what is the best cure for being in a wife beater shirt, sweatpants, finding yourself in a YouTube loophole, and with absolutely no end in sight on your 27th birthday? Well, if you had asked my family, they would have had an immediate answer that would either concern you or actually excite you. Hijack your day and take you to the best place on the face of the earth. Let me explain what I mean. So my day started like any other. I was not going to do anything, and there were absolutely no plans because who has money anymore when you're, trying to make ends meet, and when you absolutely don't have a car but want one so desperately, but you can't have one. The curses of being responsible. Anyway, so on this particular day, it was my 27th birthday, and it didn't really bother me all that much that I wasn't doing anything until I got a phone call from my mother, who insisted that I find a way to get up to Chicago. I currently lived in Rockford and had absolutely no idea of the area, but I agreed and I found a way to get up there. Once up there, I saw everybody that I missed. My mom, my dad, my brothers, my cousins, my aunts. It was great. The time of my birthday is actually in January, and we have a lot of family members who celebrate their birthdays in January. So my family thought it would be a great idea to get everybody that celebrated their birthdays in January and go to medieval times. Guys and gals, if you don't know about medieval times, let me break it down for you. First of all, you go in and it's a huge castle. Not like those, cut out cardboards. I'm talking about like the real thing. Like actual castle, knights, princesses, dragon's blood, dragon's meat, dragon bones, dragon souvenirs, a lot of dragon stuff. But anyway, that's pretty much what we were going to. It's basically where you go in and it's a tournament of different nights, and you pick a night, or actually it's chosen for you, kind of a birthday wish that I wish I got, a choice of, but apparently they don't make exceptions, so whatever. Anyway, but you have a team and you root for that night, and based on randomness, your night either wins or loses. It doesn't matter either way because you get an awesome spectacle and you get a lot of people that are just chucking swords at each other. So what more could you want? Upon arrival, man, I had absolutely no idea the day was going to turn like this. And I'm not going to give you the order in which it went because that doesn't make any sense. We're going to an epic place, so we're going to go in epic order. First thing that happened in my epic order was, as we were all sitting down on our benches and getting ready to have our meals, we needed a chant. Our night was the blue night, so what better way than to chant blue? But we got to do it in style. Should we chant blue? No, that's too basic. Should we chant the Blue Man? Nope, that sounds like another band and we don't need that. But Azul, in Spanish, Azul means blue. Azul also has a Z in it. Z's in any nerd language are just awesome. So Azul it is. So me and my brothers agree that chanting Azul was the way to go. So we go Azul, 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 Azul. And before we know it, everybody on our team starts chanting it. We sound like we are going to kick ass. It was amazing. Another thing that happened was just before we were seated, everybody is standing around and having a good time, and there's all these cheers and boos and catcalling for the other teams and stuff. And I'm standing next to my mom, and I turn to her and I go, I cannot believe this is happening. This is so incredible. And my mom leans in and she whispers, yep, we figured that this would be a really good idea, especially for you, because, you've been away and we miss you and we wanted you to know that. Just then, I felt like my family missed me about as much as I missed them. See, I hadn't called, I hadn't said anything, I hadn't even sent a postcard. I was too ashamed to let my family know about how much I missed them and how hard it was doing all of this on my own. Living on my own, paying bills on my own, figuring out where my next job was going to come from. It's a lot of pressure. But in that moment, I knew that they missed me about as much as I missed them. Anyway, enough of the sappy stuff. On to the next epic thing. So it's about the time that we're ready to eat and we need a good chanting song. They're all getting prepared to start the show. The announcements haven't come on yet. It's a little bit, between hours and people are still getting seated. And I look around and I think this is a good time for a shanty. So I lean into my brothers and I go, hey, remember that commercial? Let's do the commercial. Let me back up a little bit. See, back in the day, there was the Snickers commercial where a bunch of different people from a bunch of different timelines, a Viking, a Roman Trojan soldier, and even I think they had Caesar. But anyway, these characters go on a road trip, and with Snickers bars in their hands, they go through all these wacky adventures. It was ridiculous, and that's why we loved it. But there's one where they sing the song Green Sleeves. So we agreed that that was a good idea, but we had to get it right. So I start us off. Alas, my love, you do me wrong to cast me off discourteously. Wait for it. Green sleeves, what of my joy? Green sleeves was my delight. And the coolest part is that everyone around us can hear us at the top of our voice and start chanting and laughing. So to say that my birthday was just a regular day, I don't think so. But you know what? Every now and again, we need to be reminded that our family is pretty extraordinary, and we need that from time to time. So from me to you, I hope your birthday is as epic as mine.
Great. Do you want to know your time?
No.
Well,
yeah.
You cut it down significantly. It's 7 minutes at that.
Not bad.
I think that telling was a lot tighter. Did it feel that way to you? Like more cohesive?
It felt like I definitely had more control this
Yeah.
time around.
Yeah.
You know?
Little things that I noticed, I feel a little bit like we didn't quite get that scene of painting it right in the beginning. And partly because your intro included the giveaway. You were like, you started with in this story, my family's gonna save the day. You sort of summarized the story for us, and I think it's gonna work out. This is a tricky thing, and it becomes a choice, because you do want to hold the audience's hand through the story and help lead them, but you want to make sure that they feel like they're putting the pieces together. And a lot of times what I find is you end up losing people because they're like, oh, I know what the story's about now, right? You want a little bit of that wonder to keep them engaged. So the suggestion of painting that scene is just show exactly where you are when you're lonely, and like describe the place, describe sitting there, describe this longing for the car. You might do some like truth versus accuracy stuff if you were, and be like, I'm trying to be responsible, but I'm looking on the internet for a cool car and knowing that I can't get it, or something of that nature. And then just, like I said, jump cut us, because you're in control of this movie and narrative, and we'll be able to follow you. And that way, when you show us, and then all of a sudden, I'm standing in a castle, right? I think as an audience, we'll be able to get there with you, and then you paint it, and when it's a surprise for us, because we're not going to, we won't see a castle coming. I think that will be more impactful.
Okay.
Rather than getting at the top. I'm lonely, but my family's going to come through.
Yeah.
Let us have the surprise, and then you can be like, my family came through for me. The other little note is hit more of your brothers. Tell us what they look like. In the Snicker commercial, you have a great what's the word I'm looking for? Both in the Azul and the Snicker commercial anecdote, you have a great opportunity for dialogue. To get your brothers' voices in there and their personalities, and show us how you operate. And I would really appreciate seeing that dynamic happen and being there with you as it's happening. Does anybody else have? Yeah.
Yeah. I got one more here, Loco, for you to just think about. You kind of did, and this is one of the things we got to decide it when we're telling stories. You kind of did a moral at the end about family, and I think that's one way to go. And the other way to go is just let us as listeners extract our own morals, our own lessons out of what you said. Just something to think about.
Yeah. I will second that as like it's sort of a similar tricky choice that you have to make, because you don't want the audience walking away being like, I don't know what it was about. And an easy way to fix that is to just tell them what it's about at the end. But the audience, most of the time, also doesn't like that. Oh, he just told me. Like, I couldn't figure it out. And like, so it's
I feel like
it's that tricky line.
I feel like a good way to square that circle is that you have your mom tell the moral, right? That's part of the story. She's got a moral for us at the end. And then you don't have to say explicitly, you let her say it. And you're not beating us over the head with it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But this is a fantastic story. This is like a really cool birthday story, and I think that people would be very into it. I think that this would do well in front of an audience.
I'm gonna add something that I forgot.
Okay.
The knight that we rooted for lost spectacularly. And I forgot, and both times, like the first time I told it, I was like, oh man, I forgot that. Oh, I'll probably put that at the end, and then I didn't do it for this one, so I just forgot. So it's a small detail that's not the focus of the story. It could be a funny pun, but if it doesn't make its way in, then I'm not too beat up over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you can add it. By the way, our knight won at the end. It's a funny little thing.
No, he lost.
Oh, he lost.
Yeah, lost
cut out.
spectacular. But
Either
it's
way.
also funny. Our knight lost spectacularly, but he was family. It's okay.
That's how we treated him.
Yeah. That's great. So that was wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing and being with us. I'm gonna reiterate to chat and to the viewers. Thank you so much for watching. We are family in this crew of storytellers, and just a little reminder that like sometimes criticism seems harsh. We're never criticizing the person. It's always the story, and we all give each other the benefit of the doubt. And the tellers today are being very vulnerable as to allowing an audience to see their rough draft, and it's like a brave thing, and it's super cool. And so thank you for sharing this rough draft with us, Loco.
Yeah, your criticisms are absolutely welcome. Thank you all for what you shared. It really helps. So yeah, definitely.
Monica, are you excited?
I am excited.
Sweet.
First off, you can't hear me because I put my headphones in, so.
Yeah, you sound great.
Awesome. Okay. I have to stop and think. I've been prepping this in my head. So I'm freaking out right now. I'm supposed to be going on a bike ride in about an hour, but everything that I need for that bike ride, with the exception of my bike, is in my trunk. My clip-in bike shoes, my snacks, my water bottles, my wallet, my jacket, because it's a crisp fall day, and my keys are locked into the trunk of my little red two-door Honda Civic that I currently really hate. I, unfortunately, do this to myself a lot. So I have a spare set of keys, but they're at home, which is not where I'm at. And I can't get in there because my keys are locked in the car. And my roommate is out of town until later this evening. I follow a TikTok psychologist, and he has this really great saying that people with ADHD have a race car brain with bicycle brakes. And this is a great example of my bicycle brakes not stopping me quite fast enough to look for my keys before I close the trunk. My friend Adam has never actually been biking before. He's never really been into it. But his friend Kyle convinced him to go ahead and give it a go. And I do triathlons, so Adam decided that I should come along too. And I needed the practice anyway. I hadn't been biking since my last triathlon, and it's the last opportunity before winter limits me to spin bikes. It's going to be an easy ride. We're going from Sparks, Maryland to the new Rail Trail Cafe in Pennsylvania. We're taking the NCR, which is totally flat because it used to be a rail line. Round trip, it's 40 miles. It's a bit of a stretch for Adam because he's never been a bike rider before, and a little bit of a stretch for me because I haven't been on a bike most of the year. But that's okay because it makes Adam feel a little bit more comfortable. We decide that I'm going to get the snacks because I've done triathlons before. I know what we can eat easily while riding that'll give us energy and not upset our belly. I get snacks. I get water bottles that are disposable because if I lose them, it won't matter. And I bring everything over to Adam's house so that I can stay there the night before. Again, race car brain, bicycle brakes. If I have to be somewhere early in the morning, I do not relax. I cannot sleep because my brain is going to the next day and it's ready for me to forget to leave on time. So I don't get to do anything. I don't get to sleep, eat breakfast, anything without checking my watch every 5 minutes. So if I stay there, it solves the problem. At this point, I'm here. I can't go home. Don't have my keys. I have a choice. I can either ruin everyone's day or I can make the best of it. And considering the fact that my race car brain has caused me these problems before, I decide, why not? I'll just make the best of it. I borrow a sweater from Adam. I borrow water bottles that I promise to not lose, or if I do lose them, I'll replace them. I call my roommate, coordinate a key drop off. My only problem now is I'm in flip-flops and my bicycle has clip-in pedals for my clip-in shoes. So I joke, this will be great. It'll be fine. It's just foot placement training. I need that probably. I thankfully go barefoot a lot, so I have really thick calluses. I don't do any damage to my feet, which is nice. I probably ended up a little bit chapped from the cold, but that's nothing in comparison to things like forgetting a sports bra and still doing your workout, which yes, I have done, bicycle brakes. Overall, went pretty well. I do get some weird looks when I let people know that my first ever 40-mile bike ride was in flip-flops. But it's a funny story, and it reminds me that sometimes the best way to get through life's roadblocks is to speed right through them, because it's not like my brakes work that well anyway.
Thank you so much.
Dan, I saw you getting ready to say something.
Just thank you so much. What do you think? Yeah, I'm gonna open the same way. How did you feel about that telling? I know that you've been working on this.
I like that I've been trying to decide how much to include or not include the ADHD, because that to me was the whole reason why I wanted to tell it. I think I like the way I got it in. I still think it's a little clunky and needs some work, but it's, I think, better than the first time, and it's better than not having it. And then otherwise, I need to not be doing one of these.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm gonna open it up. Does anybody have anything that they want to start with?
Monica, I'll get started with you. I do love your energy and how quick you move, but I got to tell you, maybe it's my very slow tricycle, like 3-year-old tricycle brain, but I couldn't follow you. I couldn't quite get the sequence right. What I remember, you locked the keys in there. I mean, you locked your keys, you locked everything in there, but then somebody was going to come with the key. So wouldn't that mean you'd have everything you need? So I just had trouble following the sequence. So any way you could maybe slow down or help with transitions, that would help my little tiny kid's tricycle brain follow you.
No, that makes sense. I have it written down, but I probably wasn't clear that my roommate would bring them later when they got back into town. But that's like evening, not morning. So I could easily make that more clear.
Yeah, I think that this allows for some, we've talked before, sometimes due to the container of trying to tell these 5-minute stories, we don't what's the thing that I'm getting at? You can cut people. And so I don't know that we need that process. It's locked in my trunk and I don't have a spare set. We're not going to be able to get there. Gets you to where you need to be in the story. So Adam and I come up with another plan. I don't think we need that extra character to even come into it. Noah, you've got something?
Yeah, I mean, I first of all, I like love the description of like, you know, you launch right into it. We know what your conundrum is. You describe your car. I can see the car in front of me. I assume everyone has locked something into something, and it's just the worst feeling in the world. And we're like immediately launched into that, and I love that. The like ADHD or ADD component of the story, like, I mean, I agree that is the sort of the heart of it, right? That's what you're trying to convey, and I felt like you did a good job of it, especially with that metaphor of the race car with the bicycle brakes, which of course plays into the theme. That was awesome. On the, yeah, I did a little bit, I didn't get lost per se, but I did think like, you know, we're waiting. The tension for me was that we're waiting to find out how you resolve the problem. And I felt like I wanted to know that you did it on your flip-flops. I didn't want to hear exactly every, like, that's important to you that you had every contingency planned and your ADD. But for me, when I was listening, I didn't want to know that you had everything resolved. At some point, I just wanted to hear what happened. And then maybe after you could be like, and it was fine. My roommate got me later. It might got me the key later or whatever. But that one little piece where you went through every step of how you decided to get on the bike, for me, it felt that little part felt long, and like maybe some of it should get cut or moved behind, you know, the solution.
No, that's totally fair.
Yeah. I'm gonna piggyback off what Noah said. So I loved how you introduced the story. You put us like in the realm of what's going on. What he's saying, I'm gonna agree. That's actually what I put in my notes. When you do a list of items, typically all aspects, no matter like what industry or whatever, keep it to 3. So you list off like what's in the car, you list off what's going on, 3 items, and move on.
Makes sense.
Yeah, rule of 3 is big everywhere. People like 3s, particularly in storytelling. Repeating motifs, try to have it in there 3 times, not 2, not 4. Comedy can sometimes break that rule, and then you try to tell it as many times as possible. But in most circumstances, 3 is the answer. If you're wondering, how many times should I hit this note? 3.
So Monica, going to jump back in again. I'm thinking about the times. I thought about this, what Noah said, but you said, Noah, you know, when you slam the trunk down, and I don't know if that's how it happened to you, but you go, oh shit, you know, like that would be a really dramatic moment to sort of bring us in, that slamming of the trunk, and then all the feelings about that. And then the second thing I think about is, what the hell is it like? You're going to do 40 miles. Like I did 12 today, and I was bushed. So, and your friend who hasn't been riding, I mean, you know, and what was it like for you can you take us with you on the path? What was it like the first 10 miles with those flip-flops? You know, when did it, you know what I mean? How cold were you? Just, you know, did you have goosebumps? You know, like, just take us with you on that ride, because that's what all this is building up to.
And you can even wait to surprise us. You can be on the trail before we find out that you're in your flip-flops. Like, yes. I got it done. Oh, you know, except for the shoes. That was flip-flops.
Actually, no, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. I think I know how I want to retell it then. I think.
We gonna hear it today?
Yeah. Do you want to give us like what? Yeah. Do you feel like you've gotten enough that you want to give us a second round right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I know what I want. So. All right. I am freaking out right now. Just closed my trunk and my keys, they're not in the lock. They're in the car. Along with everything else that I need for my bike ride, with the exception of my bike. So, thing is, I actually follow this TikTok psychologist, and he has a saying that people with ADHD have race car brains with bicycle brakes. Those bicycle brakes of mine did not stop me in time to look for those keys and make sure they were on the outside of my car before closing the trunk. But I've done this before, so I decide I have my bike. I'm going to make the best of it. My buddy Adam has never actually been bike riding before. This is going to be his first real ride. His friend Kyle convinced him. So the three of us are going to go from Sparks, Maryland to New Freedom Rail Trail Cafe. If they're still open, we'll get a sandwich. If not, well, we were going to have snacks. They're in my car, but we'll make do with something else. So we get riding, and I don't have my cold weather gear because it's in my car. And I borrowed a hoodie, but it's not a windbreaker. So I'm a little cold, but it's fine. Thankfully, I've been biking a bunch before, and I'm still ahead of Adam at least. Kyle is way ahead of both of us because he bikes every day. We get all the way to the cafe. I get to go inside and warm up because they are open. And we kind of take stock. My shoes are a little bit dinged up, but it's fine. And we turn back. Turning back was the hard part. 20 miles out, 20 miles is nothing for me. It was hard on Adam. It was nothing for Kyle. 20 miles back, on the other hand, even though it's flat, it's just slightly uphill. That was not easy for Adam. And I'm starting to feel it too because I'm not in the right gear. It took us double the amount of time. The sun's actually starting to set, but it's fine. We get back. I'm not too much the worst wear. We made it work. Overall, it was pretty good, but I still get funny looks when I tell people that because I left everything in my trunk, I did my first ever 40-mile bike ride in flip-flops. But I get a funny story out of it, and it just reminds me that sometimes the best way to get through life's roadblocks is to speed right through them, because it's not like my bicycle brakes are much use anyway.
Nice. This is good because one, it's really tight. Both of them were in the 4-minute range, so you've got room to spare if you're gonna take this anywhere to get those scenes built up a little bit. Give us that drama. I'm gonna throw out a question. We talked about the moral with Loco's story. I feel like this one hits differently. But I'll open it up to the crew.
Before we do that, Chad had a good point. The story could actually take place through the actual bike ride and just bring up the car situation. They said this is from the last telling at mile 10. So that gives us a rundown, keeping us engaged.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, as a hook, if you'd open it up, I am 10 miles into a 40-mile bike ride with a guy who's basically never ridden a bike, a pro, and I'm in flip-flops. I mean, that's and then we're we've got that wonder. That wonder adds that hook. Why is she in flip-flops? And then you can go into, let me tell you why I'm in flip-flops. And you can, use that a little bit like we were talking about in Locos, that you've got control of this narrative and this camera where you're placing us in these scenes. So you can jump us back and forth through time and we can follow you. Yeah, that's good. Think about like, the drama of changing that stuff up. NLSC 6 also gives a vote for this ending, that you've written it and you've seeded it for us with this, like, I think it's 3 times, race car brain, bicycle brakes. So hitting it at the end feels very satisfactory. Again, it's always a choice, and people like to walk away with the moral, and it's sort of one of those things, like, how do you get it? Like, how much different is it if in Loco's story he says it versus, and then my mom said this about my family. It's similar to him just telling, but that slight, there's certain ways you can do it and make it work.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. The ending literally was purposely to help with making sure ADHD was included. So that's one part that I put more thought into than probably everything else.
Well, I mean that's the way
that
to go.
that was a personal lesson. What you were really talking about, Monica, was the personal lesson that you have had to adopt in your life to go through. You weren't suggesting that we all do that, right?
Yeah,
and
that's
so I think there's a difference there too. One thing I'm struggling with is I kind of like that thing about how you can't sleep at night and you're so wound up, but I'm not sure it's vital to the story, but I think it helped me understand more about you, like just how wound up you are, and when something comes, and it does say something about the stakes that you would have trouble, just couldn't like even sleep, because you were just so wound up about this whole thing happening the next day. So anyway, you might want to just think about that.
That makes sense. And as they are saying in chat, if I do sort of little flashbacks while I'm on the bike ride, mile 10 and I'm in flip-flops. Mile 20, I get to warm up. Mile 30, God, I wish I slept in my own bed last night instead of the couch.
Yes. Yeah. That's a good tension. It's a good momentum. You had in the very first version, you use the line "Hobbit feet." I thought that was super funny, and I think you should explain that it's because you're calloused up from running and doing the things that you do and running these triathlons. But I think that's a funny line, and you could throw that back in there.
I'm calloused up specifically because I do things like forget my shoes. I didn't wear shoes as a kid, and if I did, I normally lost them.
That's funny. Yeah, that's great. That's like little details. You've got plenty of room for that, and like humorous lines and stuff. So that's good. I'm giving a second. Does anybody want anything to add before we switch to our end? We're on a roll tonight.
Yeah, I wanted to say something. I like that the moral was really brought home at the end, but I am kind of with the idea because I'm scatterbrained too, and I forget simple things. Like I've walked out of the house and I've had to come all the way up 3 flights of stairs to get my keys in order for me to leave the house. So like I've done simple stuff like that, and I like hearing that in stories, especially when it happens and it's scatterbrained, and it's almost like you're seeing it through the eye of the teller and the way that they're saying it. So I like the idea of like for each mile because I'm like that too, task oriented. When you get to a certain point, a memory pops up. When you get to another, something, thoughts just happen, and if they kind of illustrated the way that you did it, I think that would be cool. But that's just me. So.
No, I actually really like that. That'll go into the 4th draft.
So I'm gonna throw out. There are tons of great virtual workshops and shows and things you can do outside of what we're doing here at the workshop. Go check all of them. Yeah, thank you so much. We're going to move on. If anybody, I know we've got a good friend of Max in the chat today who's been helping us out. If you want to throw links up to your show or anything that you're up to in the near future, go ahead and throw those into the chat, and hopefully you have time to hang out with us in Discord afterwards. Yeah. So I'm just going to push us along into the final section of our show, where we do a somewhat unique thing. And we have one of the people who are here who didn't tell a story tell one of the 2 stories that they heard from their own perspective. And there might be a little twist on it, but it's the same story. And what this does is a couple of things. One, it's very validating to feel heard. When you can say someone else's story to them, it just feels really good to hear the whole story, to know that somebody was listening closely. For the audience, what that does is create a stark contrast of how important voice is. You've got the same story, you've got the same plot, and right away you see they're vastly different, and that's what voice adds to it. And we all have a unique voice. It's all worth sharing, and you can play off that. I think that is one of the things. What does it mean to have my own voice? What does it mean when somebody has a different voice? That's a tough concept to wrap your head around. It's a little bit easier when you see the same story told twice. And Kay is up for today.
So Monica, hey, yeah, go for it, Dan.
Nope.
Monica, I was going to ask, who is your pro? Is that Adam?
Kyle is
Kyle's
Adam's
the pro.
which I didn't add too much on. He actually he not a pro, just biked every day for work. He didn't own a car.
And your beginner person?
Adam.
Okay. So I transposed them just because I have a hateful grudge against people named Kyle. No. Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to choose your story, and forgive me all of my errors and misgivings, but I really enjoyed both stories. Loco, I loved the medieval times. And Monica, I would have died on this trek. So thank you. Let me try to tell this story. So we're at mile 20 here, and you know what? Kyle is doing great. He's flying by. He doesn't have a care in the world on this little banana bike seat. Adam is trailing behind us as expected. He's not a rider, and I'm here doing the best that I can, but it's not my best ride. I am in flip-flops. This is mile 20 of 40. It's okay. We're going to push forward no matter what. We're coming around bends and turns, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? The next time I'm actually going to take the advice of this TikTok guru. He's like, people with ADHD, they have a brain that's like a race car with bicycle brakes. And if only I could remember that then maybe I'd slow down. And the next time I'm at my trunk with all my biking gear, I won't lock my keys in the car. I have total faith that this can be the next move for the next ride. But for now, here I am right around mile 20. I'm doing what I can. Uh, I never really wore shoes as a kid, so my feet are giving me all the help that they possibly can give. Got little hobbit feet going on. The calluses don't feel a thing at first. I'm hitting mile 30, and it's starting to occur to me that having a race car brain with bicycle brakes is really bad for my back. No worries. I'm just going to have to continue to push forward because that's what we do. It's an adventure, right? It's about the ride. I get a chance to stop at a cafe. This is great. Take a pause. By the time that I get to mile 40, I love the fact that I have a race car brain with bicycle brakes because if I was a person who stopped to be a little bit more rational, I might not have gone on this ride at all. I might have said, when you lock your gear in the trunk, that means the ride is over before it begins. But that's not how you play the game, and that's not how we ride.
Aw, that's great.
I like that.
Yeah, that was a super tight telling. You know, I've got a buddy, Sean Wellington, and he runs a 99-second story slam. And now that I've heard Kay's version, I feel like you could get this down to 99 seconds. I think it could be just like that punch. Boom, I'm doing this race. I'm in flip-flops. This is how it happened in the car. Boom, I'm in the race, and I finish it because moral. I think that would be fun.
Oh yeah, I don't do long stories. Like I had to work to make this around 5-ish minutes, and I didn't even succeed at 5-ish minutes. So 99 seconds, that's my speed.
Also in March, we're actually gonna put on a contest. So yeah.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. Links.
Yeah, follow us on Facebook. That's probably where we'll be posting it first. But we also throw everything up on our blog, storyluck.org. And we ended a little bit early tonight, but hopefully you have fun stuff to do. And if you don't, you can join us in the Discord. Mac, do you have some parting words for us?
Well, Dan and the crew, I just want to say that, this is like a transportation kind of deal. I felt transported, loco, to something I knew nothing about, which is this medieval extravaganza. But in the heart of that, you were telling about something really precious and to you, really close to your heart. Is actually probably as close to your heart as almost anything gets about your family. And so was that. And then Monica, just getting this sense of you and your, I do love that phrase, the race car brain and the bicycle brakes. And I keep hearing that trunk slam. I keep hearing that sort of, and try to imagine, I mean, it's happened to me many times, but just try to like that, and then what it is, the fact is you came with bicycle shoes and clip-ons, which I've never worn in my life, and you were like prepared and you were like ready to go. And then you had to figure out how you're going to salvage the situation. So, and then Kay, you're retelling, I know you're kind of have an athletic background and whatever. And I thought you'd have a particular sympathy with Monica and with her situation. But anyway, it's great to be here with the crew, and it's great that you as an audience have joined us. And I thought it was an exceptional night tonight.
Yeah. Does everybody else want to say goodbye before I close out the stream?
Yeah, good night, everyone.
Bye. Good night.
Thanks for coming.
Happy birthday, Loco.
Thank
Happy
you.
birthday,
I'm so
Loco.
happy I got to spend my birthday with you guys. That is so awesome.
Hugs through the internet.
We have gone back to medieval times. Cheers.
There you go.
Thank you so